Alright, welcome to my editing tutorial of Manny Koshpin's CGT. I got this picture yesterday, so first I'm going to start by applying my normal custom preset, so it kind of brings this exposure up just a bit, contrast down, highlights down, shadows up, whites, blacks. Big thing is the dehaze, kind of makes the color pop. You can see without dehaze it's there, kind of adds a little bit of contrast like that. And that's about it for that thing. So then you also want to adjust the white balance, so I'll make it a little more yellow. It's a little bit blue kind of looking here. And for this picture it's a little dark, so I'm going to adjust the shadows up and the exposure up a little bit just to kind of get it how I like. Alright, so now these headlights have a little bit of, you can see a little bit of like rainbow color in them. So I'm going to take the brush tool, brush over that area, and then we're going to turn down the saturation a bit, just to try to get rid of those rainbows a little bit. Doing that, it kind of makes it a little bit lighter, so then a lot of times you want to turn up the clarity and bring down the blacks a little bit just to bring the color back, or the darkness back in the rest of the light. We'll do this on the same on the other side. It's still a little bit more colorful on that side, so we'll bring the saturation down a little bit more. When you do that, you kind of get some weird colors sometimes, or weird tones, so I'll try to bring the temperature down, make them a little more blue, which makes it look a little more natural. And then we'll crop, adjust the angle, so you want to look for spots you can line up areas on the car. So here the mirrors were a good spot, the very bottom of the mirror, or very top of the mirror now. Make sure those helps make sure the car is level, as long as there's no weird uneven trees in the background. And then for centering, you also want to look for areas you can use like the hood here. So now we have our car centered. I want to make it a little bit lighter first. Now we're good to go, so we're going to open it now in Photoshop. So now we're in Photoshop. Big tools we're going to be using are the spot healing tool, spot healing brush, which we have there. So we'll start by removing little things, and then we'll remove bigger things like the shadows, so you can drag or just click with the spot healing tool to remove different parts. So once you select the area, the computer kind of does the calculation for you and removes stuff. You usually have to go back over and touch it up a bit, but it can usually get certain areas pretty well first shot. So just go back over and touch it up, and you can make the brush larger or smaller, and now I'll speed up. I'll do this to this section. So you can see a lot of little touches up to kind of go back over it and fix it while it goes. Alright, so now we're going to move on to removing the people in the background. So we're going to start with this guy in the center over the back wing. We want to use the lasso tool to select the area we want to edit. That way we don't accidentally cut into the car or the wing or anything like that. So we'll go carefully select along the edge, select all the way around him. And now we'll do a fill. So you can either hit on a Mac function Shift F5 or do fill and edit. We'll make sure it's a content aware fill, let the computer calculate it. Usually, unless it's a very blank wall, it doesn't do it perfectly, but it kind of gets the gist of it. So then we'll go back over that selection area with the spot healing tool to kind of try to correct any spots that need to be fixed, which is honestly most of it. Sometimes there'll be things that it just refuses to remove, like this box. So we may leave that, we may end up taking it out later, we'll see. So just going over with the spot healing tool over and over again to different spots. Sometimes it won't work, so you'll go to the clone stamp tool. You'll select the area you want, like this wall here, and then I'll just start dragging and copying. And to do make a large area from a small area, you'll have to recopy the spot you want to use over and over again. So like after this, I'll go back to that area, select that as the base part, and then drag it over again. Now we'll go back to the spot healing tool and clean up those, the copy. The edges will be a little rough, so you kind of have to go over with it and clean it up with the spot healing tool. Now it's just going over it a lot, over and over again, with a combination of the clone stamp and the spot healing tool. So sometimes there's little weird spots that if you make the brush a little bit smaller, it can do a better job a lot of the times, or you use the clone stamp tool like that. So both methods can work. You just kind of gotta work with Photoshop over and over again with the spot healing tool to clean up all the weird spots in it. Alright, so that looks pretty good, so we're going to deselect that area, and now along the edges there may be a little bit to clean up, so we'll use the spot healing tool there to clean up those areas. Anything else that looks weird around this area. Curve here is a little weird, but we may let that slide. Just cleaning up the edges of that selection, and got a little like dark line around the edges, so getting rid of that. Getting rid of any other weird places around the edges of that. Alright, now we're going to carefully select the area we want again with the lasso tool. We're going to try to remove this guy's feet. So we're going to do that now with a combination of content aware fill. We tried that didn't work. Now we're going to use spot healing tool and the clone stamp. You'll see there's a lot of little adjustments and copying over and over again that you have to do this. I'll speed it up so you don't have to watch the whole thing. You see, you kind of get a regular pattern, which you don't want. So we can get rid of that, but just by using the spot healing tool more. Now we're going to move this back guy, this other guy in the back, so you can kind of work the spot healing tool over to clear away from the car. And then, since this is a tough area, we're going to actually do a lasso select of this area and copy it, so that we have a kind of more regular pattern here with the road to extend the road out. So we'll make a copy, paste it into a new layer, drag it across, and then do that again to get a little more depth there. And you want to make sure the lines and any lines on it, the sidewalk line, the other road lines line up. So to do that, because it's getting smaller because it's going out of the frame a little bit, we'll adjust the size and then adjust to make sure all your lines line up. And then we'll merge down or flatten image to make those all into one layer, and then use the spot healing tool to kind of clean up the edges of what we just did. Alright, so now after cleanup, there's this one tree is missing a trunk now. So we're going to go with the clone stamp and spot healing tool and add a trunk back in. Alright, now this area in the back with the mulch is kind of irregular, so we're going to use the smudge tool to just kind of remove some of the regularity of it. Now, after doing that just in small little circles, we'll use the sharpen tool, and that'll kind of add back in a little bit of noise to make it look a little more natural back there, like it was actually in the picture. I'll go over, clean up any areas that are missing, any shadows, reflections on the car, any regular areas you can go over with the spot tool to try to clean up. Then we'll save our photo in Photoshop, close the file in Photoshop, open it back up, and it should automatically open in Lightroom. And then you can see the original, the edited version. See all the people and shadows and weird objects in the background we removed. Looks pretty good there. A feature I like to add is use the circular radial gradient to add a little bit of vignette effect to the foreground on the road. So we'll remove the top part, make sure it's not really covering the car at all, and then bring down the highlights and exposure to make it a little darker in the front. Move it around as needed, and we are good to go now. So here's the image, here's the original before being edited, and here's the edited image. I hope you enjoyed this. If you got something out of it, let me know, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.